The gates of Europe were about to be thrown open, not by a mighty emperor, but by a single, desperate invitation. Last time, we saw Sultan Orhan ascend to the throne of the burgeoning Ottoman state. The Anatolian Peninsula was a fractured chessboard of rival Turkish beyliks, each vying for dominance. Orhan's survival depended on expanding his power, but he was trapped between significant threats. To his east stood the formidable Turkish states of Karasi and Karaman, the latter backed by the vast Mamluk Sultanate. And in the west, the legendary Byzantine Empire remained a colossal power, supported by the Christian nations of Europe. Orhan was practically at war with all of them simultaneously. But how could this small state besiege the mighty Romans when it was itself surrounded by enemies? This is a story of survival, ambition, and a fateful alliance that would change the continent
it's the only way
forever.
to take the capital before
I'm
winter
your
sets in.
host, and on this channel, we explore the winds of thought that shaped our world. The Byzantines had already lost much of Anatolia, but they clung to key cities in the northern region of Bithynia. Orhan's first move was to encircle these strongholds, aiming to expel the Romans completely and secure his own borders. His forces began to isolate the Byzantine forts, cutting off their supply lines. News of this aggression alarmed the Byzantine emperor, who personally led an army of 4,000 men in 1328 to confront the Ottomans. This was monumental. A Roman emperor was taking the field against the Ottomans for the very first time. Orhan decided to intercept him before he could reach the besieged cities. He maneuvered his troops to Maltepe, a high point near Nicomedia, gaining a crucial vantage. From there, his soldiers could observe the approaching imperial force. Orhan's secret weapon was his cavalry, skilled horsemen and archers who lay hidden along the emperor's path, waiting to spring a trap that would send shockwaves through history. The ambush was devastating and sudden. As the Roman army marched into the kill zone, the Turkish horsemen unleashed a storm of arrows and a ferocious charge. The Byzantines were thrown into utter confusion. Then, a devastating rumor spread like wildfire through their ranks. The emperor had been slain. To this day, it's unclear if this was a planned deception or a tragic accident, but the effect was catastrophic. Believing their leader dead, the Roman soldiers broke formation and fled in a disorderly retreat back to the safety of Constantinople's mighty walls. The emperor himself barely escaped with his life. This wasn't a formal, set-piece battle, but the psychological blow to Byzantine prestige was immense. The Romans had viewed the Ottomans as little more than a bothersome tribe, while their own army was legendary for its discipline and 1,000 years of military tradition. A single rumor shattered 1,000 years of pride. This humiliating defeat broke the Roman spirit. Morale plummeted, and critically, military support for the besieged cities in Bithynia was cut off. Left to their fate with no hope of relief, these fortresses fell one after another to the Ottoman forces. Orhan's victory did more than demoralize Byzantium. It also caught the calculating eye of a powerful Byzantine general, Kantakouzenos. He saw the fierce effectiveness of the Ottoman army and made a dangerous decision. If you can't beat them, use them. This shrewd general harbored ambitions for the imperial throne himself. He was not in the direct line of succession, so seizing power required a revolt. He already had supporters within the army in Constantinople, but he needed an outside force to protect his flanks during the inevitable civil war. He decided the Ottomans were the perfect ally for this dangerous game. secret emissaries were sent to Sultan Orhan.
Their
In
supply
a
lines are
stunning
weakest
turn,
here,
the
near
most
Leipzig.
capable general
Then that
of
is
the
where we
Ottomans'
strike.
greatest enemy
It is a
now
risky
sought a
maneuver,
partnership.
Marshal.
He promised Orhan rich rewards and even offered his own daughter's hand in marriage. Orhan agreed to the pact. The strength of this alliance would soon be tested. When the emperor died in 1341,
The northern borders
his
shall be
9-year-old
reinforced
son,
immediately.
John Palaiologos, was crowned. Kantakouzenos refused to accept this and launched his rebellion. He demanded to be named co-emperor, threatening war. The young emperor's mother understood the source of his confidence and desperately sought help from the Karasid Turks, rivals of the Ottomans. But their aid was insufficient. A devastating 6-year civil war erupted, pitting the alliance of Kantakouzenos and the Ottoman Turks against the young emperor, who was supported by Serbia, Bulgaria, and the Karasids. When the dust settled, Kantakouzenos emerged as co-emperor, but his victory came at a terrible price for the Byzantine Empire. The empire was shattered. Serbia broke away as an independent kingdom. Bulgaria swallowed huge tracts of land in Thrace. The once great Byzantine Empire was reduced to little more than Constantinople and a few scattered coastal cities. The civil war, however, massively increased Ottoman influence within the crumbling empire. Orhan was now the son-in-law of the Byzantine co-emperor. This new position of power also allowed the Ottomans to dominate their Turkish rivals, the Karasids, who were left isolated without powerful allies. The Karasi realm was gradually absorbed into the growing Ottoman state. This expansion was a geopolitical masterstroke. It brought the Ottomans to the shores of the Dardanelles Strait, the very gateway to Europe. There were two paths into Europe, through the heavily fortified Constantinople or across the Dardanelles. For generations, the Turks had dreamed of crossing into Europe, a vision held by their founder, Osman. Now, they stood at the water's edge, but a narrow sea and a watchful European army blocked their way. It would take another twist of fate to open the door. That twist came when Kantakouzenos faced a revolt of his own in the mid-14th century after trying to position his son as his heir. Once again, he turned to his powerful son-in-law, Sultan Orhan, for military help. Orhan agreed, but this time he set a momentous condition. In exchange for his assistance, he demanded permission to cross the Dardanelles and establish a permanent military base on the European side at Gallipoli. Desperate, Kantakouzenos agreed, and so the Ottoman Turks entered Europe. They crossed the strait without a fight, without shedding a single drop of blood. Orhan dispatched his son, Suleiman, with a substantial force to Gallipoli. With Ottoman help, Kantakouzenos stabilized his position, but a new problem quickly arose. The Ottoman tradition of Gaza, a holy struggle to expand their domains into non-Muslim lands, took over. Suleiman and his warriors, true to their Ghazi identity, began to advance from their base, conquering territories in Thrace, the region west of Constantinople. The Byzantines watched in horror as the temporary helpers became permanent occupiers. Alarm spread through the Roman leadership. This land grab was happening precisely because of their own emperor's decisions. Public opinion turned violently against Kantakouzenos. To save his position, he sent a message to Orhan, pleading with him to stop the conquests and either confine his troops to the base or leave Europe entirely. Sultan Orhan refused, declaring he would not return lands taken from the unbelievers. A desperate deal forged an empire's destiny. Gallipoli and the conquered parts of Thrace were now permanent Ottoman possessions. lands that remain the part of Turkey to this day. The Romans, recognizing Cantacuzenos as the root of their calamity, overthrew him. A new, fiercely anti-Ottoman emperor took power. Not long after the fall of his father-in-law, Sultan Orhan died in 1362. But his legacy was secure. He had transformed the state he inherited, more than doubling its size and establishing a firm foothold in Europe. The succession now fell to his remaining sons, Suleiman having died. Of the two, Murad and Khalil, a fratricidal struggle ensued. Murad emerged victorious, killing his brother Khalil to become Sultan Murad I. He immediately reignited the tradition of Gaza, but his most famous innovation was the creation of a terrifying new corps, the army of the elite slave soldiers. What was this legendary force, and why did it become one of history's most formidable military institutions? The answer reshaped the world, and we will reveal it in our next chapter. If you've journeyed with us this far, please support the channel by liking this video and exploring more deep dives into history here on Winds of Thought.